countdown timer. This is so cool. All right. So welcome to Cosplay Fitness 101. My nat is Natasha, Nat 1, Nat 20. I've gotten both repeatedly. And why did I create this panel? Very back in the day, in 2012, I put in a little proposal to my college and I said, hey, can I go around the country and can I, interview cosplayers and, try to, what's the meaning of cosplay? The resulting paper was not actually about the meaning of cosplay. It turned out that in really talking to folks, asking them about what characters they were doing or wanted to do, what decisions they made for their costumes, I really realized that the act of putting on a costume is an act of embodying a character. And of course, everybody at this panel is probably like, well, of course, like this is the closest we can get to actually physically being somebody else. Luckily for me in my day job, I can go out and, lift iron and, flex my biceps and be like, yeah, just everyday Gideon. But I don't have necromancy. I don't have a cute little, socially inept girl following me around to tell me what's wrong with me. No, like, I'm not actually Gideon every day. But being able to physically represent your character is important. Because, there's a closeness, there's a connection, there's an intimacy, and, a lot of the characters that we do choose to cosplay are stronger than we are, faster than we are, or maybe they've got something in themselves, they've got a certain grace to them. Gideon, one of the many, many reasons that I'm doing Gideon today is because I love the way of exploring movement given Gideon's training. So, she starts off and, let's say if you're used to hauling heavy weight and broadswords, you're gonna have swag. Like, it manifests in the body because that's the way the body has been trained to deal with load resistance. But right early in the book, she gets told, well, you're gonna be this little chick's cavalier. Oh, well, shoot, now she has to go in with rapier. So that's a different movement pattern. You do have to, I mentioned dex, you have to start dumping your stats into dexterity as opposed to brute strength. By the way, for the people who just came in, who didn't hear me earlier, if you want to shout in the chat box, like what characters you're interested in cosplaying or that you have cosplayed and that you want to do in the future, please let me know because, especially at the end for Q&A, I want to be able to help you as best I can. This panel is going to be a lot of me talking. If at any point you can't hear me, please shout into the chat box. If at any point you want me to repeat something or do something different or make a modification for you, please, absolutely. Like, this is actually my job, showing people how to move and asking them questions about what could be going on in their body. Or hearing the questions that they have about what's going on in their body and going, well, let's find out. One of the reasons why everybody should read Gideon the Ninth, it's just really good on anatomy. Very accurate on that part, makes my job so much easier. All right, so the thing that I wanted to, because this is an interactive panel, if you want to just chill and let everybody else interact and do more listening and doing stuff along with me, that's very cool. I'm just going to be giving you some ideas of things to do along with me because I feel that they help a lot in terms of connecting with a character in embodiment. Like, the reason that we're approaching this, the reason that we have this goal of embodiment is, pictures, Instagram, like, it's being able to move in the shape of the person you want to create or the person you feel is actually inside of you and just waiting to be expressed in costume. Like, that's a big deal. It really, really is. And your own sense of yourself, your own fitness level can help. And then even the real goal of this, if by the end of this panel, you find out things about yourself that give you ideas of, hey, maybe this is something I can work on in the gym. Like maybe that thing we tried earlier in the panel, that's gonna give me an idea to stretch, you know? So hopefully this is gonna start giving you answers in the form of goals that you can apply to whatever your fitness practice is, your wellness practice, your body practice. Like, this isn't about achieving a body shape. This is about achieving movement. This is about achieving, just a way of being. If there are movements you can't do, please don't feel obliged to do them. Hang out, learn some stuff. If nothing else, if absolutely nothing else, you're just entertained, very okay with that. Very, very okay. We've got an hour. So yeah, just play along. We're gonna start off with some breath work. So find a comfy spot. And what I like to do with breath work is use it as an assessment of where you actually feel oxygen in your body. Very, very fun fact about anybody who's into fandom, whether you're an anime kid, fantasy nerd, whatever, but like, we actually have a better sense of body awareness than most people because we consume so much body-related imagery already. Like, we're always told, like, in any magical, supernatural, sci-fi, there's always that concept of energy. How is energy flowing through the body? What kind of magic are you producing? How does the magic feel? Is it like, in Walking with Dragons, where magic, you just pull the little rope and then magic happens? Or is the magic sort of seeping out of you? Is it a controlled blast? Magic or energy has actually been around historically for, let's not even go there, the thousands of years. Many thousands of years in Eastern practice and Western practice. So we have this concept of fluid and blood and nutrients moving through our body, and we call it energy and vibrations and just molecules of stuff bumping into each other through our nervous system. And we get to work with that, which is why we're starting with breath work, because the breath is a great way to get in touch with it. I hope everybody here can breathe. If you cannot breathe, you should actually leave this panel and see a doctor. We like people being able to breathe. If you don't normally breathe, this is going to be really good practice. Be surprised. You might actually be surprised how little you breathe or how much you breathe in everyday life. Everybody's very different. Okay. So you can close your eyes, get into yourself, and start by breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Now, I could be very Avatar: The Last Airbender and say that this is where the magic begins, but the way we're using it is actually for the first part really of assessing yourself, figuring out, well, are my sinuses open? Can I breathe through my nose? I have trained so many folks, so if I ask them to breathe through their nose, they say, well, I just can't. I cannot breathe through their nose, through my nose, through their nose. I cannot breathe through my nose. I simply do not have the sinuses for it, to which I'm very sad. So right now, as I'm talking, see if you can inhale and exhale as best you can. Now, what are we looking for in this? First off, your nervous system should go, thank you, I needed that. It should be a nice decompressor. The ultimate goal of this exploration is to see without judging. This is just information. Can you inhale all the way into your nose? And then as you exhale, actually feel the air go in a straight path through your body. And you'd be surprised. That's why I'm pausing. You gotta try it out for yourself. Can the breath go in all the way through the nose? Uninterrupted? Like if you start to breathe and then something in your chest is like, nope, that's not moving. Well, this is really, really important information because you might have to take chest. Most of us do. Every time I'm on my phone for longer than 2 seconds, my chest goes, nope, and just everything comes in here. Whenever we're typing, everything comes in here. The neck becomes a hot mess. And at this point, I just started handing out cards to massage places and letting people go like, yo, you got to take care of that. Or, get a really good self-care practice. The other thing you can look for on that path. So if I'm breathing here, my chest goes out, yay. Nice open chest, feel the ribs expand. You can actually breathe through the sides of your ribs. If you've never encountered that before, try it out right now. It's super cool. Like you probably heard my voice change because of that diaphragmatic expansion. By the way, I do occasionally throw around anatomy, just like in Gideon, like diaphragm and ribs and body parts. Just because muscles have really gorgeous names, I'm going to try to keep the jargon to a minimum, but if you want me to repeat any muscle names, just let me know. So where were we? Ribs, yes. So you can feel them expand. And actually, if you put your hands on your ribs and let your fingers act as the ribs, you should feel your fingers sliding apart and then coming in, sliding apart, coming in as you breathe. It should feel very soothing. You can also breathe through your back. So if you have one hand behind you, one hand in front of you, this, by the way, good way of figuring out how mobile your shoulders are. Not everybody can do this. If you find your hands coming apart as you breathe, and back together, also a good thing. The other reason, of the many, many, many reasons that I go through breath work is that when you are experiencing anxiety or, things that could be related to cosplay, I mean, if it's the night before a con and you definitely haven't finished any of the things, or if you're like me, and right before coming on camera, your pencil sharpener is like, nope, I'm not gonna let you actually use your white pencil so that you can do your night house paint, like 5 minutes before the con. I go, great! So breath work, very useful. Locating the points of tension in your body through the breath, that's going to serve you no matter where you go, no matter what you do, whether you're wearing a costume or not. Because as you go down the body, like we started, nose, I didn't do too much with the neck, but you can kind of imagine you want those muscles to expand as well. Nothing too crazy. Too much neck breathing could contribute to tension, but really it's the chest that people have the most trouble with. And then the belly. Some people say, again, Avatar: The Last Airbender, they talk a lot about belly breathing. It's a very Eastern practice. Some people say that you should only breathe through your belly. Some people say you should only breathe in through your nose and out through your nose, and just feel that bellows going here all the time. Luckily, modern science says no, especially if you have conditions around your abdominals. Like some people have diastasis recti, like postpartum. Like not everybody is going to benefit from deep belly breathing. Like not everybody's jam. Not everybody might feel that it's helpful to them. So in experimenting with the breath and trying to breathe through your belly or not, you can feel whether that is going to be a form that works for you. Going through this whole path, you'll figure out, I feel the most comfortable in my chest, I feel most comfortable, in my stomach. And, by the time you get down to the pelvic floor, things should feel like they make a little more sense. Or you should have roughly an idea of where your body is going with itself. Pelvic floor, if you are not yet in touch with your pelvic floor, the secret is that you're always in touch with your pelvic floor because that is, the part that's going to be most closest to the ground. We are ideally sitting on our sits bones and, you know, feeling the pelvic floor expand, contract. Like my hands are making muscle shapes for you. You want the pelvic floor to be able to just go like this in concert with all these areas of breathing zones, neck, chest, stomach, pelvis. All of these can expand and contract because oxygen, when you inhale, expansion all around. Exhale, contraction all around. This is also going to be useful for if you do decide to take what I give you into your current fitness practice, if you have one, then be mindful of your breathing during like push-ups. Pretty handy, especially if, you know, we are here for Gideon Guns to, you know, chase down princesses and errant Negroes who need saving. So that being said, next up, what I wanted to go through is stance, because if you have a good sense of yourself breathing in a sitting position, well, it's time to take a stand, because this is going to apply to when you put on a costume, when you want to get into the active embodiment. Like, you probably stand one way at Trader Joe's. Gideon or whoever you're doing, Harry Potter, Batman, Dante from Devil May Cry. I only mention him because that specific video game is very, very good at giving you ridiculous movement patterns and poses to replicate. So it's good fitspiration. Just like, oh, I want to be able to do that. But regardless, standing. That's basically that first act of kind of like solidifying yourself into that character you want to be or do. So here, if I'm hanging out normally, like it's all right. It's asymmetrical. You might figure out, as if you choose to stand up with me, you might figure out like, oh, I carry my weight not in one place. This is not a yoga class. I'm not asking you to come up and, woo, mountain pose, yay! No. I mean, we can do that, it would be, you know, cosplay yoga, not cosplay fitness. So what our goal is here really is to develop your stance as, you know, how do you connect to the ground, and also how do you balance yourself in space. Like, a lot of the work that I do with folks is just about getting them to find a safe place to actually arrange their anatomy in the air, because they might be experiencing joint pain or, you know, areas of the body that don't feel great just standing. Like, if just standing in a normal position is tiring for you, then, I mean, first off, like, don't push yourself in this. Please, it's supposed to be fun. But also, where you find the most strain or the most pressure is going to be indicative of, well, these are the areas in the body that maybe they want some strength, or they want a different arrangement to be able to, you know, carry ourselves comfortably. So for me, anatomy here, I got super wide hips, super wide shoulders. So the stance that I find most comfortable is feet at least underneath my shoulders, and then here, so everything just kind of balances itself out, not just front to back, like people normally think about carrying their weight, like, oh, am I tipping forward, am I tipping back? You want to think about where you're spreading yourself out to the side. Like, my other area of practice is martial arts, which is why I'm dropping all the Avatar Last Airbender references, because, you know, they're pretty good about when somebody needs to ground themselves for, you know, like earthbending or something, you have to get deep and you have to let yourself come down into a grounded stance. I'm not saying you have to, you know, get into Hibadachi when you're on live at Trader Joe's, but being able to take an iota of that for yourself and be able to just have some softer knees and maybe think about tucking the pelvis a little bit. Like, most of us, we got Like this is the Tyra Banks booty tooch. If you've ever watched America's Next Top Model, and which, you know, it's cute. It's her little catchphrase, but we actually don't want this because look what's going on with compression in the lumbar. That's why we get all the anatomy back here. Because, yeah, we don't want our bones doing this. You know, this is the wrong kind of necromancy. So you want to think about lengthening yourself. And you can even do this seated. Like if you've chosen to stay seated while I'm spieling, please. Just find your tailbone. Like the tip of my tailbone is right here. Yes, I'm telling you, you can touch yourself. In a PC way, it's all good. We're here. And then grab the back of your neck and see if you can get these spaces to just align themselves in the air. If you have any kind of theater background, I'll show you my other hand so you can see maybe better, more opened up. If you have a theater background, this might resonate from something like Alexander technique because that talks a lot about C0, which stands for cervical spine 0, aka where your head sits on your neck. Very useful. Very, very useful place. Because if you imagine that joint, I'll switch to his hands so you see what's actually going on. Imagine that joint just being separated a little bit, lengthened out, and then a synchronous thing happening in that tailbone. Like we're just pulling these two bones away, and then that spine is going to lengthen out in between. Very useful, because I'm sure your grandma's told you, well, just pull your shoulders back and sit straight. No, honey, no. No, I'm breaking you out of that right now. Because if I'm pulling my shoulders back, I mean, look what happens. I'm just pulling my shoulders back nice and straight. No, I mean, first of all, I don't think any of us are here because we're straight, but just think about creating length and space between the vertebrae. You know? So the way that relates to, you know, being character is, you know, if you're at a con or, you know, even if you're just having fun, taking photos with your friends, being comfortable. That was what I loved about, I don't know if anybody was at the panel that was right before, but historical costuming. Great note at the end saying, hey, you know, don't sacrifice your comfort for the costume. So that's part of this panel as well. Like, you want to be comfortable in the act of moving in whatever clothes you're wearing. Because, I mean, it's no fun otherwise. Like, the pictures come out terrible. And, you know, go home all cranky, spent all the time, spent all the effort, spent all that money on sewing yourself or, you know, painting yourself something really awesome. And then, nope, you're uncomfortable. And believe me, I've been there. Ask me about doing Wonder Woman for thesis research. Like, bloomers, boob tape, that's discomfort. Luckily, I mean, you know, we can work with the body in other ways. Which actually brings me to, so if you have a feeling of your stance already, and, ooh, we do have somebody saying something. Yeah, just, yeah, please blow up the chat box. Like, the more you have input or things that could directly help you, like, there's so few people here right now that if every single person plugged into that chat, like, I want to do this costume and I want to be able to, like, get to a really cool, like, deep squat so that I can be like, woo, then they fall. Great, let's move with that. Yeah. So, yes, thank you. Thank you for being here because this is what we're here for. That being said, let's get into a bit of moving. So one of my favorite ways to just kind of get an idea of how you move is actually just going from squat to stand or sit to stand, because that's the most common thing that we do during the day. It's something that I start off even most of my clients with, especially if it's a muggle who, you know, maybe he's just been sitting this whole pandemic and now he wants to get up and like walk with his grandkids. Yay! We need to be able to do that. If you're a gamer and you've been sitting all day and you want to, you know, get up and make yourself some ramen, yes, we need to be able to do that in a way that's actually going to feel good. So let's grab ourselves. I got a little pillow. And we're going to come right here. Now, this is the part that some people might find scary because, you know, this is where I do the disclaimer of like, I'm a personal trainer. I've been doing Taekwondo for X number of years, you know, working on my 2nd degree black belt. So I have a lot of my own flexibility. Do not use me as like, oh, if I can't do it the way Shiva is doing, I'm a failure. No, I mean, come on. This is what can be done in the body. You do what you can, all right? So we're here. Now, ideally, this is textbook ideal. Like if we all lived in a perfect world full of perfect anatomy, we would all stand and sit like this. So I'm up here in my beautiful long stance, and then my butt just goes to the ground, and then all the way back up. Now, who's going to do that? Who is actually going to stand up and sit down like that? Probably not many of us, except for me because I'm a nerd. But I'm also the kind of nerd where, you know, I grew up on Naruto, and every moment is a training moment. Every moment, always training for something. But for the rest of us, what's helpful is to think about, well, how can I just make this daily life movement a little more comfortable, because it's going to make other not daily life movements even more comfortable. Like, I love that in the chat we've got a question about just getting more comfortable posing. So posing like any character is going to require putting your body into positions that you might not do normally. But if you have a sense of where your hips are going in space, anything is possible. You know where your hips are going, you know where your shoulders are going, you know where your feet are, you know where your hands are. This, you know, you can work with this, all right? So we're going to come back now to how do we take this and make it real, make it applicable. So that's the secret. I'm going to tell you what I hope somebody has told you before, but chances are somebody has not, and what you shall now tell everybody from now on. You know, this shall be the legacy. Squatting is not the act of going down. Squatting is the act of going back. Down happens because there is no more back to go. Physics is magic. All right? So I'm using a wall so that you can see really what's going on. If at any point you can't see what's going on, shout, please. Like, you know, I got my deck stats, I can go back and forth, it's good. You can put your hands in front of you, or if you don't feel comfortable putting your hands in front of you, put on your hips. This is a great place to start because I feel like I can actually feel whether my hips are creating a linear hinge. Linear hinges are useful because here, I'm actually going to fall back onto the wall. All my weight is back on the wall right now. And if my hands are back here, I can feel whether is one hip coming up or is another hip coming up? Is one butt like really, really high up? Is another butt like all the way down here? Just on its own. Our bodies are asymmetrical. No body part has the exact same, you know, shape, size, muscle conglomeration as another. That's why the ancient Greeks decided that the symmetrical body was actually divine, because otherwise it was completely unattainable. So for us, like if I was in your room working with you right now, I would just be checking out like, okay, you know, do the hips feel even? Of course, I spoiled it for you by saying, well, they're not. But that's what I actually want to know. I want to know which hip feels not so even and which hip maybe feels more stable You know, if both hips feel just like completely out to lunge, this is good. This is information. Like, you know, this is when you get really entrapped in here and be like, data! This is data from the body. The body is giving you so much data about yourself at all times. And it's about just receiving it and being open to it. So we're here. And, you know, just to give you an example, like for me, my data is usually this leg. This left leg is going to feel a whole lot heavier than the right one. Why? Because I broke 2 metatarsals in my right foot a couple of years ago. And yes, there was a lot of, you know, all of that Avatar: The Last Airbender, you know, recovery, trauma, training, montage, all those things. No, I did not get a girlfriend who got the spirit world at the end of it, because obviously, how would I be here? Goals though, goals. Spirit world girlfriend, all right? So as a result, there's going to be more muscle pressing into this side of the wall and less muscle over here. Now, if I'm going to take myself off the wall, shifting the weight forward and continuing to shift it forward. See, that's the other half. If I just told you that squatting is not the act of going down, it's the act of going back, then the act of standing up is not the act of going up. The act of standing up is the act of going forward, but going forward so much that up is the only place left. That's why I talked a little bit about that pelvic tuck, because that helps solidify you in the air. All right. So if you want to take a break for yourself and just kind of practice like wall, butt, wall, butt, wall, butt. Very useful. Very useful. If you ever do any Rocky Horror Picture Show reenactments, really, really useful. Let's do the time warp again. It's the pelvic thrust, and it will drive you insane. Me doing this drill with some clients does drive them insane, because it's like, well, I already know how to stand and sit up. Why would I need to practice it? Because the other reason I'm telling you all this is because one of the things that we really want in all of this is injury prevention. Like, yes, looking cool is end game, but looking cool at the expense of breaking yourself, not end game, because that's a different end to a different game that we actually don't want. So, if I'm back here, nice and comfy, look where my knees are in relation to my toes. They're behind my toes. Yes. You want that to happen, because let's say you've done the wall butts enough. See, you know, you aim for like 10 wall butts a day, eventually you work up to about, you know, a nice solid 100 per week. Let's get some Rock Lee repetitions in here. And now you're at the level where you can go, boo, 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 boo. You know, in case you notice, the knees are still behind the toes. Show you again. Do. My butt is going back, 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 back. And my knees, they're just chilling. They're just chilling. If the deep squat then becomes something that you want to practice for yourself, just for that hip mobility, for being able to open up your hips, I'm throwing that in there, like being able to get down here and if you need your hands to assist yourself. Also, huge part of just overall like hip wellness. And heck yeah, plenty of characters pose like this too. But also, this is the starting mobility position for so many movement practices, so many disciplines. You know, everything from like powerlifting to yoga to martial arts. Like being able to be here comfortably, super, super good. You know, and the way you know you've mastered being down here is when the arches of your feet, these guys, do not go in. Oh yeah. I just threw something at you that I hope of the people who are here or the people who see this recording, please take it with you for the rest of your life. This is super cute, having your knees go in, having your arches of your feet go in. Great for pictures. Do not make this your body practice on the everyday. This is one of those things that does contribute to whole knee problems, ankle problems, foot problems. You know, not something I want to see down the line. Think about, you know, especially if you don't use your feet very much, like if you have a sedentary job, you're in the office most of the day, your home office most of the day. Just, you know, every so often, get your toes deep and down in there. You know, get a little monkey king about here. You know, indulge your inner Goku. Because all of that is going to make everything you do just being comfortable in these sort of nooks and crannies of your body. All of that contributes to the way that comes out when, you know, you put on a costume, you're going to embody a character, because you already are so intimately acquainted with yourself that taking that self-knowledge and just slapping on some paint, putting on a really sexy outfit, all of that, it just shows, it comes out, and it makes everything worth it. So let's just see how we're doing on time. Haha, yay. So clock says 13 minutes. And so 10 minutes, I would love if people could blow up the chat box with questions. Seriously, if you have a question or anything that you've been dying to know this whole time and I have not spieled about it, please put it in the chat. If you have anything else, if you want to troll the heck out of this, please put it in the chat. I don't mind. But before we get to, like, as you guys are sending your questions, if there are any questions, something that we already kind of started going into for this panel, as I started talking about things to look out for in your mobility. Notice I'm not saying flexibility, I'm saying mobility. Mobility is the act of being able to transition from position to position. Whereas flexibility is just like, well, I mean, I can put my leg all the way in the air, but actually, all right, so I put my leg all the way in the air. Woo, this is like super fancy, but is it useful? Being able to hold my leg up like that, yes. Flexibility, being able to kick somebody in the face, that's mobility. One of these is useful because you never know when you're going to need to kick somebody in the face. I mean, right? Troubleshooting then. Troubleshooting. Let's say, you know, you're working on, like, so you're working on the deep squat that I just showed you. I'm gonna grab, I have a fun little pole here. And so you can use this, you can just use like a table thing to help support you as you go up and down. Ooh, got a really good question there. So if you do hurt yourself, pull a muscle, what are some ways to work through sore pained muscles? And good tips for improving balance. And 5 minutes for some couple good tips you do absolutely anywhere. Oh, yay! Yay! Chat box is blown. I'm happy. Thank you guys. So, in order, if you have a pulled muscle, first off, I am certified in corrective exercise, so this is my jam. If you know it's a pulled muscle and only a pulled muscle, there are no lacerations, no tears, the cartilage is intact. You have an MRI that shows that everything is fine. It's just a pulled muscle. Work around it, be gentle with it. Like if you're doing some stretching, that's actually why I did that little mobility versus flexibility demo, is because mobility is preventative. The act of pursuing mobility is preventative for pulled muscles, essentially, because mobility, like if I'm training somebody to do a side lunge like this, we love this pose for cosplay, like, yeah, I'm all the way deep down here. or bam, I'm all the way deep down here. So, but the way to make that mobile and train that without pulling a muscle would be, okay, so here's a little baby side lunge. And it's just what we're doing on the wall butts. And then just being so gradually, you know, if you're doing this a little bit during the day, you're gonna figure out, okay, knee is still behind the toe, can safely transition back out of it. Great. All right, so that's working on your mobility. And that is a way to work around some soreness in the body or a pulled muscle or something where you feel like, you know, the body is just not entirely copacetic with what you want to do with it in terms of future workouts. Just ease, be gentle, you know, think about, you know, like you're massaging yourself from the inside. That's how mobility should feel, not flexibility. Flexibility feels like you're pulling out taffy. Let's see. Improving balance was the next question. So, best way to improve balance is, I hate to say it, but practice. So, before I go and tell you, well, just stand on one foot all day, I'm gonna ameliorate that directive with saying how to practice balance. Because, you know, everybody has seen Roma, you know, big Oscar-winning movie. She stands on one leg, woo, balance! And it looks effortless, it looks easy, it looks passive. Yes, that is possible. You do yoga every single day for the rest of your life, but the best way to practice balance is not just by, you know, set aside 30 seconds like it's here in an elevator and okay, I'm gonna go on one leg, see how long I can hold it. Great way to practice passive balance or unconscious balance, but because my practice is more about getting people in touch with their bodies, learning the ways in which you are actually anchoring yourself in space. So like, for example, if I'm here, I'm gonna actually take down the camera so you can see what my feet are doing, because this is important. Aha, we are here. If I'm on one leg, there's a lot of movement going on in here that you probably can't see. There we go. So if I'm on one foot, the ankle wants to shift from side to side, or if I'm gesticulating, stuff is going on. So I have to be in charge of everything that's going on around here into these toes so that I have a nice solid base. Now, what does that mean for what it looks like above the surface? If I'm trying to balance on one leg, so I'm grounded down here, you know, think about pushing everything outward through those toes, you know, get some earth bending going on in here. And then at the same time, my butt is super squeezed. I'm stable through my pelvis. Like there is action going on in here, even though I'm not being very, you know, expressive about it. So we have this going on, pelvic tuck, and just letting everything in your body actually feel like it's pushing, extending, like, you know, it should feel like you are actually extending yourself into space. Something people also find helpful when practicing balance is just make a fist or deliberately tense one of your extremities, your surrounding extremities. This is a principle called irradiation. It's super fun. It's, you know, there's some great kettlebell videos on it. So go look up irradiation. That's your fitness physics concept of the day. Hope that helps in terms of balance. And seriously, like if your balance training starts off and you can't even get one foot off the ground, like we're just here, that's okay. Seriously, that's freaking okay. Like being on the ball of your foot, still very valid for like practicing cat stance, or like if you are gonna cosplay, you know, something of the ninth and you want to do some rapier stuff, like, hey, you know, this is fencing. So all good. Last question. 5 minutes. A couple of go-to moves. You can do opposite and work. Squats. I did not actually plan on quoting Gideon, but squats. Do some squats. That's why actually I went into how to hinge your butt properly, because the squats are a great go-to move for anytime, anywhere. And you can play with them. You know, you can start practicing squats on one foot. They're infinitely variable. Beyond that, for people's specific bodies, I have to do that hedging thing, which is, you know, part of my profession, which is I can't tell you which move is going to be perfect for you anytime, anywhere, because if you've got something going on in your body, like a herniated disc, squats might not be it for you. Push-ups might not be it for you. A lot of things might not be it for you. I work with a lot of herniations. If you have scoliosis, it's a different ballgame. But if you are a body that can perform squats, those are fabulous. Another move is if you want to get into push-ups, freaking love push-ups. I'm gonna do a quick demo on how to approach them in a way where if you're not used to doing them, they're gonna feel better. Ground up. So we're here. You're gonna start on the ground. You're gonna dig your feet wide. If you do your push-ups like a merman, like Zoolander, you know, that's not allowed in my gym. We're here, feet are out. Put your arms behind you, please. No chicken wings. This is not Princess Tutu. That's a different anime. Put your head back. And you're gonna squeeze your butt so hard that you come into the air. Push-ups are secretly a leg exercise. If you did not know that before, now you do. And now, whenever you train and your bros are saying, hey, let's go do some push-ups, you can say, but are you squeezing your butt, my friends? And they'll probably say no. And then you can show off your knowledge. If nothing else, this is what I hope to give to the world, just how bros can improve their push-ups amongst each others. So that's movement number 2. If, by the way, you can't do that full-on push-up, I know that's it's a lot, especially if you're starting off. Just a little cobra, little baby cobra. Like, keep everything on the ground, squeeze your butt, and because you'll be able to work towards doing a bigger cobra, and then full Monty. And last move, I'm gonna have to say, there's so many options. Last move, I'm gonna have to say the bridge. I can't believe I'm giving a butt exercise, but because normally I just go, oh, we'll just give them some abs. No, you guys are gonna get bridging for today. Why? Because if I give you only abs and you only build your abdominal muscles, things are gonna go like this. You need butts. We're sitting all day, we need more butts. So you're gonna go on your toes. Oh yes, because chances are you've not activated your plantar fascia in all this time. And you're gonna work on just being able to get your hips in line with your knees. You should feel the bridge from the back of your knees, back of your heels, inside the arch of your foot, everything should feel straight. If you're less than politically correct, imagine that lasers are coming out right here. We're gonna get really gynax. You know, this is the other end of the epithelium right here. And then bring it back down. Being able to hold this for like 5 minutes, you're gonna be great. If you have no other options. If you have a gym, if you've got weights, please use them. You're strong. Trust me, you have no idea how strong you are. And I can say that not even seeing someone's face, because if you're here, you've already done half the work mentally. It's just a matter of learning what weight and what resistance is going to be good for you. Yay! Fred loves bridges. Lovely. Thank you, everybody, so much for coming. You're amazing. Thank you for the questions at the end. Share the recording with your friends if you feel like this was helpful information. Like, I hope that this kind of, is helpful for cosplayers, no matter what year it is, no matter what costumes they're doing. And I just hope you had fun. Like, that was my goal here. And if you learned something, that was my other goal. So, like, the timer is saying, only 20 seconds. So here's this big old butt heart for everybody. Thank you so much for coming. If there's anything that you feel I did not address, then I'm just gonna drop a link to my website in the chat, if that's okay, because you can just, email me. I work through Zoom.
all good.
And thank you, FC, for all your help. You were awesome. This was great. Thank you.